because you probably should be. Alright, settle in, folks. Or don't, maybe stand. Good for the posture, I hear. My name is Yu, and I'm about to take you on a little journey. A journey into sound, and sometimes video. Mostly, it's a journey into things that are going to make you question your life choices, specifically the choice to click on this video. Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 most terrifying real-life recordings. Now, I'm not easily spooked, as some of you might know. I've stared into the abyss, and the abyss was like, he's alright. But some of this stuff, it's genuinely unsettling. These videos, 911 calls, radio broadcasts, and unexplained footage will send chills down your spine. We're talking about the kind of recordings that stick with you, that make you double-check the locks, maybe even sleep with the lights on, which, by the way, is terrible for your REM cycle, but you do you. We've dug through the archives, the creepy corners of the internet, and the historical records that people probably wished stayed buried, to bring you a collection of audio and visual evidence that is, to put it mildly, deeply disturbing. Some of it is tragic, some of it is baffling, and all of it is 100% real. So, grab your security blanket, maybe a skeptical friend, tell them I said hi because things are about to get weird, and just a heads up, a little professional courtesy, viewer discretion is advised. Seriously, some of this content is intense. If you're the type to see a shadow and assume it's a demon accountant coming for your soul, maybe this isn't the video for you. Or maybe it is. Who am I to judge? Let's just dive in, shall we? The water's, well, it's probably full of something awful. Alright, kicking things off with something incredibly heavy and honestly, just profoundly tragic. This isn't a ghost story, there are no ghouls here. Unless you count the ghoulishness of the event itself. We're talking about a 911 call made by Kevin Cosgrove from the South Tower of the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. Now, many recordings from that day are harrowing, but Cosgrove's call, made in his final moments, is particularly stark and unforgettable. He was an executive, a vice president of Aon Corporation, trapped on the 105th floor of the burning tower. He's on the phone with a 911 dispatcher, and you can hear the desperation, the sheer terror in his voice, but also this incredible, almost unbelievable composure at times as he tries to describe his situation. He's trying to guide rescuers, even as the situation around him is deteriorating rapidly. He tells the dispatcher, "My wife thinks I'm all right. I called her and said I was leaving the building and that I was fine, and then bang." The bang he's referring to is, of course, the second plane hitting the South Tower. The rawness of that, the sudden shift from presumed safety to utter catastrophe is just, it's a lot. Cosgrove is with two other people, one of whom he mentions is badly injured. He's looking out the window or describing the smoke and the chaos. He says, "We're not ready to die." And that's the part that really gets you, right? The simple, human plea. He's fighting for his life, relaying information. "I can barely breathe, I can't see, we're young men." The dispatcher is trying to keep him on the line, trying to offer what little reassurance she can, but what can you even say in a situation like that? It's an impossible task. The call continues for several minutes, and you can hear the building groaning, the sounds of destruction escalating. Cosgrove is audibly struggling, the smoke overwhelming him. He's coughing, gasping for air. He keeps asking about help. When are they coming? Are they coming? And the dispatcher, bless her, is just trying to keep that connection, that tiny thread of hope alive, even though, from the outside, we know the grim reality of what was happening and what was about to happen. It's a testament to human endurance, but also a brutal reminder of the fragility of it all. Then, towards the end of the recording, the line gets increasingly chaotic. Cosgrove is shouting, "I'm not kidding. We're on the 105th floor, North Tower. No, the Trade Center, the World Trade Center. My office is on fire." He corrects himself. South Tower. Amidst the terror, he's still trying to be precise. You can hear the building itself almost screaming around him. The sounds are deafening, the situation becoming unsurvivable. It's a descent into pure, unadulterated horror, captured in real time. And then, the most chilling part. Cosgrove screams, "Oh God! Oh!" And the line cuts out. The building collapses. It's just silence. That abrupt end is what haunts you. It's not just a recording, it's the last testament of a man facing an unimaginable end. There's no analysis needed here, no witty remarks. It's a stark, brutal piece of history, a voice from the edge of oblivion. It sets a somber tone, but it's a reminder of the real-world horror that can often eclipse any fictional tale. Alright, let's shift gears a bit, though not necessarily to anything less unsettling. This one is a real head-scratcher. A modern mystery that starts with a car in a ditch and ends with, well, that's the problem. We don't know how it ends. I'm talking about the disappearance of Brandon Swanson. On May 14, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon was driving home from a party in rural Minnesota. He did what many of us have done. He misjudged a turn, and his car ended up in a ditch. No big deal, right? Annoying, sure, but not usually the prelude to vanishing off the face of the earth. So, Brandon calls his parents. He tells them he's okay, not hurt, just stuck. He gives them his location, or what he thinks is his location, near Lind, Minnesota. His parents head out to pick him up, keeping him on the phone. Standard procedure. They're flashing their lights, he's flashing his, but they can't see each other. This goes on for a bit, and you can already feel that little knot of forming in your stomach. How can they be so close, both using lights and not connect? Rural Minnesota is dark, sure, but still. Brandon, getting frustrated, tells his parents he sees lights from what he thinks is Lind, and he's going to walk towards them. He figures he'll cut across some fields, meet them at a local club or bar in Lind that he knows. He stays on the phone with his dad for about 47 minutes. During this call, he's describing his surroundings, fences, a river, or some kind of water. His dad is trying to guide him, still searching. And then, right in the middle of the conversation, Brandon suddenly exclaims, "Oh shit!" And the line goes dead, just like that. His parents try calling back over and over, no answer. They continue searching throughout the night, growing increasingly frantic, as you can imagine. The next morning, the authorities get involved. They ping his cell phone, and here's where it gets weirder. The pings don't lead them to Lind, or anywhere near where Brandon said he was. They lead them to an area about 25 miles away from Lind, near Porter, Minnesota. And sure enough, that's where they find his car, abandoned in a ditch, just like he said. But no Brandon. So the oh shit moment. What was it? Did he fall? Did he encounter someone? Did he see something that startled him? The area where his car was found is rugged terrain, lots of small rivers, ditches, and uneven ground. Search parties, including dogs and aircraft, scoured the area for weeks, then months, then years. They found nothing. No body, no clothes, no sign of him at all apart from the car. The dogs reportedly followed his scent for a bit, leading to the edge of the Yellow Medicine River. But then the trail went cold. The theories are all over the place. Did he accidentally fall into the river and get swept away? Possible, but usually a body turns up eventually. Did he encounter foul play? Maybe, but there was no evidence of a struggle at the car or along any potential path. Some even whisper about more out-there explanations, given the suddenness of his cry and disappearance. What could make a 19-year-old kid who's on the phone with his dad suddenly yell an expletive and then just vanish into thin air? It's the not knowing that's the worst part. That single, abrupt, "oh shit," hangs there, an unanswered question mark over a young man's fate. Alright, so we've had real-world tragedy, real-world mystery. Now let's dip our toes into the arguably more traditional spooky stuff. I'm talking about electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs. You know, when you ask a question into the void of a supposedly haunted place, record the silence, and then later you hear a wispy voice saying, "Get out," or "We have crumpets." It's a staple of ghost hunting and a source of endless debate. Are they actual spirit voices or just audio pareidolia? Our brains making sense of random noise? I lean towards the latter, but hey, let's explore. Our star for this segment is the RMS Queen Mary, a retired ocean liner permanently docked in Long Beach, California. Now this ship has a reputation. It's like the Disneyland for ghosts, if Disneyland was also a bit rusty and occasionally smelled of old seawater and existential dread. People claim it's one of the most haunted places in America. with tales of spectral sailors, ghostly children, and even a lady in white. So naturally, it's a hotspot for EVP hunters, hoping to catch a disembodied whisper. There are countless EVPs claimed to have been captured aboard the Queen Mary over the years. Some are less than convincing. A slight breeze sounds like muon, or a creak in the floorboards is interpreted as I'm here E, but every now and then one comes along that's a little clearer, a little more unsettling, even to a hardened skeptic like myself. These are the ones that make you go, okay, what was that? Even if your next thought is, probably the air conditioning. One of the more famous EVPs reportedly captured on the Queen Mary involves a supposed child's voice. Ghost hunters will be in one of the ship's old nurseries or playrooms. Already creepy, by the way. Old children's toys are inherently unsettling, and they'll ask questions. Is anyone here with us? Can you tell us your name? And then, on playback, sometimes a faint, childlike voice is heard, words like play or a giggle. Now, is it a real ghost kid stuck playing spectral peekaboo for eternity? Or is it someone's stomach rumbling in a weirdly high pitch? The debate rages. Other EVPs are more aggressive. People claim to have recorded growls or direct commands like leave or get out. These are often captured in areas like the engine room or the first-class swimming pool, places with their own dark legends. The engine room, for instance, had a tragic accident where a crewman was crushed by a watertight door. The pool is said to be haunted by various entities, so when you hear a gruff voice in the dark telling you to scram, it definitely adds to the ambiance, even if it could just be your friend trying to mess with you. Ultimately, with EVPs, especially from a place as saturated with stories as the Queen Mary, it's hard to separate the legend from potential reality. The power of suggestion is strong. If you go in expecting to hear ghosts, you're much more likely to interpret ambiguous sounds as something supernatural. But I will say, listening to some of these recordings in the dead of night, even if you're 99% sure it's just static, that 1% can still make the hairs on your arm stand up, especially if it sounds like it's asking for crumpets. I'd be out of there. Chapter 4. Okay, this next one is less about a recording something and more about a recording something. A deeply unsettling piece of viral footage that fueled 1,000 internet theories. I'm talking about Elisa Lam and the infamous Cecil Hotel elevator video. This case is a rabbit hole, man. A dark, weird, and ultimately tragic rabbit hole. Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian student, went missing in January 2013 while staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. A hotel, by the way, with its own checkered, super creepy past. About 2 weeks after she was reported missing, the LAPD released surveillance footage from one of the hotel's elevators. And this footage, it's bizarre. It shows Elisa Lam acting incredibly erratically. She enters the elevator, presses a bunch of buttons, but the doors don't close. She then peers out into the hallway, jumps back in, hides in the corner, then steps out again, looking around as if she's expecting someone, or hiding from someone. Her movements are strange, almost theatrical at times. She's seen waving her arms, talking and gesturing to, well, no one that we can see. At one point, she steps out of the elevator and appears to be having some sort of conversation or interaction in the hallway, though there's no one else visible in the frame. Then she re-enters the elevator, presses more buttons, and still, the doors don't budge. It's like the elevator itself is part of whatever strange drama is unfolding. The whole sequence is about 4 minutes long, and it's deeply unsettling to watch. What makes it even creepier is that this is the last known footage of Elisa Lam alive. 19 days after she disappeared, her body was found in one of the hotel's rooftop water tanks. Guests had been complaining about low water pressure and a weird taste. Yeah, the discovery itself is horrifying, but how did she get there? The rooftop access was supposedly locked, alarms set, the tanks themselves are difficult to get into and the lids are heavy. It just didn't add up. The elevator video became the focal point for countless theories. Was she having a psychotic episode? The coroner's report eventually listed her death as an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder as a significant contributing factor. But many people weren't satisfied. They pointed to the odd behavior, the non-responsive elevator, the hotel's dark history. It housed serial killers like Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger, and was known for suicides and unexplained deaths. Was there something more sinister at play? Some theories veered into the paranormal, suggesting she was being pursued by a ghostly entity, or that she was playing some version of the elevator game, an urban legend about reaching another dimension. Others suspected foul play that was somehow covered up. The video doesn't provide answers, it just deepens the mystery. It's a chilling glimpse into someone's final baffling hours, a silent film that speaks volumes about fear, confusion, and the unknown. Regardless of the explanation, the footage of Elisa Lam is undeniably haunting. Chapter 5. Alright, let's lighten the mood a little. Well, lighten might be the wrong word. How about aggressively weird? This one isn't about death or ghosts, but it's about a different kind of unsettling. The hijacking of your regularly scheduled programming by something truly bizarre. I'm talking about the Max Headroom broadcast signal intrusion incident. Yes, that Max Headroom, the stuttering CGI-ish talking head from the 80s, except this wasn't an official broadcast, oh no. On the night of November 22, 1987 in Chicago, viewers of WGN-TV were settling in to watch the 9 o'clock news. Suddenly, their screens went black, and then, bam! An unknown individual wearing a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses appeared. The figure was rocking back and forth in front of a corrugated metal background, accompanied by a distorted, buzzing audio. This first interruption lasted only about 25 seconds before WGN engineers managed to switch their broadcast to another transmitter. Short, weird, but just an appetizer. The main course came about 2 hours later. Viewers watching an episode of Doctor Who on WTTW, a PBS station, were in for a much longer, much stranger experience. The signal was hijacked again, and this time the Max Headroom impersonator was back with a vengeance. This interruption lasted for about 90 seconds, and it was unhinged. The figure, still in the mask, made a series of bizarre, often nonsensical statements. He hummed, he giggled, he mentioned Coca-Cola's Catch the Wave slogan. Max Headroom was a Coke spokesperson at the time, adding another layer of weirdness. He made strange references to WGN anchor Chuck Swirsky, calling him a frickin' liberal. He held up a Pepsi can at one point, then threw it off screen. The audio was distorted, sometimes garbled, and the figure's movements were jerky and unsettling. It felt like a scene from a low-budget dystopian movie, not your evening dose of The Doctor. The whole thing had this chaotic, almost manic energy that was genuinely disturbing to people watching live. Imagine, you're just trying to watch Tom Baker do his thing, and suddenly this takes over your screen. The most infamous part of the WTTW intrusion involved the figure dropping his pants. Well, sort of. His trousers were pulled down and his bare backside was briefly exposed and spanked with a fly swatter by an accomplice who was partially off screen. Then the screen went to black and regular programming resumed. People were baffled, amused, and more than a little creeped out. Who did this? How did they do it? And perhaps most importantly, to this day, the perpetrators of the Max Headroom broadcast intrusions have never been identified. The FBI investigated, but the culprits were sophisticated enough to hijack the signals and then vanish without a trace. It remains one of the most bizarre and audacious acts of broadcast piracy in television history. The recording itself is a grainy, distorted piece of found footage-esque nightmare fuel. It's funny in a what on earth am I watching kind of way, but also deeply unsettling because of its randomness and the anonymity of the person behind the mask. It's a reminder that sometimes the weirdest things are humans just being humans in a creepy mask. Chapter 6. Okay, we're going back into the deep end now, folks. This next one involves recordings that are, frankly, some of the most disturbing audio you might ever or hopefully never hear. We're talking about the case of Anneliese Michel, a young German woman who underwent a series of exorcisms in the mid-1970s. The story is tragic, complex, and the audio tapes documenting these rites are profoundly unsettling. Regardless of what you believe about demonic possession, Anneliese was diagnosed with epilepsy and depression and received psychiatric treatment for years. However, her condition worsened, She became increasingly tormented, experiencing hallucinations, developing an aversion to religious objects, and speaking in strange voices. Convinced she was possessed by demons, 6 of them, apparently including Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Nero, and Hitler, quite the dinner party, her family and 2 Catholic priests opted for exorcism. These rites were conducted over a period of about 10 months from 1975 to 1976. And they recorded them. Over 40 audio tapes, hours and hours of these exorcism sessions exist. And let me tell you, listening to even snippets is a horrifying experience. You can hear Annalisa, or what is purported to be Annalisa, screaming, growling, and speaking in multiple, distinct, and often deep, guttural voices. These voices curse, blaspheme, and engage in dialogues with the priests. The sounds are not something you easily forget. They are raw, visceral, and sound like pure agony. The priests would ask questions, demanding the demons identify themselves, explain why they were possessing Annalisa, and when they would leave. The demonic voices would respond, sometimes mockingly, sometimes with chilling pronouncements. Annalisa herself during these sessions would thrash violently, contort her body, and exhibit incredible strength. She also stopped eating, believing that starving herself would help expel the demons. Her physical deterioration during this period was severe. The content of the tapes is debated, of course. Believers point to the unnatural voices, the knowledge some of the demons seem to possess, and the sheer intensity as proof of genuine demonic possession. Skeptics, including many medical and psychiatric professionals, argue that Annalisa was suffering from severe mental illness, possibly exacerbated by religious fervor and the exorcism process itself. They suggest the voices could be a result of dissociative identity disorder or psychosis, and her behavior a manifestation of extreme psychological distress. Tragically, Annalisa Michel died on July 1, 1976, at the age of 23, from malnutrition and dehydration. Her parents and the 2 priests were later charged with negligent homicide and found guilty. The case sparked immense controversy about faith, mental illness, and responsibility. The recordings, however you interpret them, stand as a chilling testament to her suffering. They are a window into a medieval-sounding ordeal happening in the 20th century, and the sounds captured are the stuff of nightmares, whether you believe in demons or in the terrible power of the human mind to unravel. Alright, this next one is another recording that exists more in its horrifying description than in public availability, and for good reason. It captures the final, terrifying moments of Timothy Treadwell, the self-proclaimed grizzly man, and his girlfriend Amy Huguenard. Treadwell spent 13 summers living among grizzly bears in Katmai National Park, Alaska, believing he had a special bond with them. He filmed his encounters extensively, resulting in the documentary Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog. But in October 2003, his luck and his theories about coexisting with wild predators ran out. Treadwell and Huguenard were attacked and killed by a grizzly bear near their campsite. During the attack, the lens cap was reportedly still on Treadwell's video camera, but the audio was rolling. This audio recording, said to be about 6 minutes long, captured the sounds of the mauling. Now this tape has never been officially released to the public, and frankly that's probably for the best. Those who have heard it, including Herzog and Jewel Palavac, Treadwell's ex-girlfriend and co-founder of Grizzly People, describe it as unbelievably horrific. Herzog in his film is shown listening to the tape with Palavac. You don't hear the audio, you just see Herzog's reaction, and it's one of visible distress. He advises Palavac to destroy the tape, to never listen to it again, saying, "It will be the white elephant in your room all your life." That alone tells you the kind of impact this recording has. It's not something you'd want to hear, trust me. The descriptions are enough to paint a truly grim picture of their final moments. According to reports from those who have heard it, the recording begins with Treadwell screaming that he's being attacked. Amy Huguenard is heard telling him to play dead, a tactic often advised for bear encounters, though its effectiveness is debated, especially in predatory attacks. Then, as the attack intensifies, she screams for him to fight back. There are sounds of struggle, growls from the bear, and the terrified screams of both Treadwell and Huguenard. It's the raw, unfiltered sound of a human being killed by a wild animal. The details that have emerged are sparse but chilling. At one point, Treadwell supposedly tells Amy to leave to run, but she apparently stays, trying to help him, perhaps even hitting the bear. Her screams are then heard as the bear turns on her. The sheer terror and helplessness conveyed in those sounds must be unimaginable. It's a primal fear, the kind our ancestors must have known all too well, captured on modern recording equipment. A stark, brutal reminder that nature, for all its beauty, is indifferent and can be incredibly violent. The existence of this tape, even unheard by most, adds a layer of profound horror to Treadwell's already tragic story. It's a final, gruesome chapter to his controversial life among the bears. While we don't, and shouldn't have access to the actual audio for this list, its described content and the reactions of those who heard it make it one of the most terrifying real-life recordings imaginable. It's a testament to the brutal power of the wild and the thin veil between life and a very sudden, very violent death. Chapter 8, Dyatlov Pass, Whispers from the Frozen Waste. Alright, let's head to the icy, desolate Ural Mountains of Russia for one of the most enduring and baffling mysteries of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass incident. In February 1959, 9 experienced ski hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, died under extremely bizarre and unsettling circumstances. While there isn't a clear recording in the traditional sense, like a 911 call, the recordings here are the photographs found on their cameras and the chilling entries in their diaries, which paint a fragmented, eerie picture of their final days. The group had set up camp on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, which translates from the local Mansi language to Dead Mountain. Not ominous at all, right? When they failed to return, a search party was sent out. What they found was deeply disturbing. Their tent had been cut open from the inside. Their belongings, including shoes and warm clothing, were left behind. Footprints in the snow indicated the hikers had fled the tent, some barefoot or in socks, in temperatures well below freezing, heading downhill towards a nearby forest. 2 bodies were found first by a makeshift fire under a cedar tree, dressed only in their underwear. 3 more, including Dyatlov, were found between the tree and the tent site, seemingly having died while trying to return. It took another 2 months to find the remaining 4, buried under more than 10 feet of snow in a ravine, further into the woods. And these last 4 had suffered horrific internal injuries, fractured skulls, major chest trauma, consistent with the force of a car crash, yet with no external signs of a struggle or impact. One victim was missing her tongue. Now where do the recordings come in? The hikers were avid photographers and diarists. Cameras recovered from the site contained undeveloped film. The photos, once developed, showed their journey, mostly normal hiking stuff. But some of the last photos are strange. One famous photo, supposedly the last one taken by Yuri Krivonashenko, is blurry, out of focus, and appears to show strange orange lights or orbs in the dark sky. This has fueled endless speculation about UFOs or secret weapons tests. The diary entries also offer clues or perhaps more confusion. They describe the group in good spirits initially, but later entries hint at unease, though nothing explicitly terrifying. One entry mentions building a fire in a stove, which was unusual for their type of tent. Another diary found near the tent had a final, cryptic entry. From now on we know that the snowmen exist. Snowmen, as in Yetis? Or was it code for something else, or just a joke? The ambiguity is maddening. The official Soviet investigation concluded that the hikers died from a compelling natural force. Yeah, super specific, thanks. Theories range from an avalanche, though the tent site wasn't typical avalanche terrain and some injuries were inconsistent, to infrasound-induced panic, to a military weapons test gone wrong, to an attack by local Mansi tribesmen, quickly debunked, to yes, cryptids or extraterrestrials. The lack of a clear explanation, the bizarre state of the bodies, the cut tent, the fleeing in terror, it all combines to make Dyatlov Pass a chilling enigma. The photos and diaries are the only voices we have from them, faint whispers from a frozen, terrifying unknown. Chapter 9. The Zodiac Calling, I Like Killing People. Let's talk about a voice that terrorized a generation, a voice that belonged to one of America's most infamous and still unidentified serial killers, the Zodiac. This guy wasn't just content with murder. He craved the spotlight, taunting police and the public with cryptic letters, ciphers, and yes, chilling phone calls. While not all his supposed calls were definitively authenticated, the ones that are, or are strongly believed to be, are pure, unadulterated creepiness. The Zodiac Killer operated in Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, officially credited with 5 murders, though he claimed many more. After some of his attacks, he would call the police to report them, often in a calm, monotone voice that was deeply unsettling. Imagine being the dispatcher on the other end of that line, hearing someone confess to a brutal crime with such detachment. It's the stuff of nightmares for law enforcement. One of the most famous calls attributed to the Zodiac was made to the Oakland Police Department on October 22, 1969. This was after the murder of taxi driver Paul Stein in San Francisco. The caller, in a slow, deliberate voice, stated, "I'm the man who shot the taxi driver." He then went on to give details only the killer would know. But it wasn't just the confession, it was the tone. It was devoid of emotion, almost bored, which somehow made it even more terrifying. This wasn't a crime of passion, it was calculated, cold. Another deeply disturbing call, though its authenticity is debated by some, was allegedly made to the television show AM San Francisco hosted by Jim Dunbar in October 1969. A man claiming to be the Zodiac called in live on air. He spoke with Dunbar and famed lawyer Melvin Belli, who agreed to meet him. The caller, who identified himself as Sam, sounded nervous, sometimes rambling, but also chillingly stated, "I don't want to go to the gas chamber and I am sick." He also said, chillingly, "I like killing people because it's so much fun." Whether Sam was the actual Zodiac or an elaborate sick hoaxer is still a point of contention for some, but the impact of that broadcast was immense. For people listening live, it was like the boogeyman had just called into their morning talk show. The voice, whoever it belonged to, was shaky, but the words were pure menace. He talked about his killing slaves for the afterlife, a recurring theme in the Zodiac's letters. It was a direct line into what seemed like a profoundly disturbed mind. These calls, along with his taunting letters filled with ciphers, some of which remain unsolved to this day, created a persona for the Zodiac that was almost supernaturally evil. He wasn't just a killer. He was a performer, a manipulator, playing a deadly game with society. The recordings of these calls, even just transcripts or descriptions, serve as a stark reminder of the real human monsters that can exist. No ghosts or demons needed. Sometimes the most terrifying voices are just other people, filled with a darkness we can barely comprehend. And the fact he was never caught just adds another layer of unresolved dread. Chapter 10. The Bloop, What Monstrous Thing Said Hello from the Deep. Alright, for our final entry, we're diving deep, literally, deep into the South Pacific Ocean to be exact, to investigate a sound that baffled scientists and fueled a whole lot of what-if scenarios involving, well, giant sea monsters. I'm talking about the bloop. Yes, it sounds a bit silly, like something a cartoon character would say, but the sound itself was anything but. It was powerful, it was mysterious, and for a while, nobody knew what the heck was making it. In the summer of 1997, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, bless their acronym-loving hearts, detected a strange, ultra-low-frequency sound using its underwater hydrophone arrays. These hydrophones were originally designed to listen for Soviet submarines during the Cold War, so they're pretty sensitive. This sound, later nicknamed the bloop, was incredibly loud, picked up by sensors over 5,000 kilometers apart. That's like really, really far. What made the bloop so intriguing was its acoustic signature. It had a rapid rise in frequency over about a minute and then a deep, powerful bloop sound. Scientists at NOAA analyzed it and determined that its characteristics were consistent with that of a living creature, but a creature far larger than any known animal on Earth. It was significantly louder than the call of a blue whale, which up until then was considered the loudest animal sound. So naturally, people's imaginations went wild. Could it be a colossal squid, a yet undiscovered species of gigantic whale? Or as many sci-fi and horror fans hoped, myself included a little bit, could it be something Cthulhu-esque? H.P. Lovecraft's fictional ancient cosmic entity, Cthulhu, was said to be slumbering in a sunken city in the South Pacific, not too far from where the bloop was detected. The coordinates were eerily close. Coincidence? Probably. But it was a fun coincidence, and it certainly added to the mystique. For years, the bloop remained an unsolved mystery, a genuine what is that moment for oceanographers. The idea of some gargantuan unknown leviathan lurking in the crushing depths of the ocean is inherently terrifying and fascinating. It taps into that primal fear of the deep dark unknown. The ocean covers most of our planet and we've explored so little of it. Who knows what's really down there? Maybe something that goes bloop very, very loudly. However, science, that buzzkill, eventually caught up. In 2005, and more definitively by 2012, NOAA concluded that the bloop was most likely the sound of a large ice quake, a phenomenon that occurs when massive icebergs crack and fracture. The acoustic signature, while initially seeming biological, was found to be consistent with these non-biological cryogenic events. So, probably not Cthulhu. Shucks. But for a while there, the bloop was the ultimate mysterious recording from the abyss, a sound that hinted at unimaginable creatures and the vast, terrifying unknown of our own planet's oceans. Even with a scientific explanation, listening to it still gives you a little shiver. And there you have it. 10 recordings that, if they haven't already, will probably be replaying in your head when you're trying to fall asleep tonight. You're welcome. From the genuinely tragic final words of Kevin Cosgrove to the baffling disappearance of Brandon Swanson, the eerie whispers on the Queen Mary, and the just plain weirdness of Max Headroom, we've covered a lot of unsettling ground. These sounds and images remind us that the world can be a strange, terrifying, and often unexplainable place. Sometimes the scariest things aren't fictional monsters, but the real events and unanswered questions that linger. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, or if you're now thoroughly convinced you'll never sleep again and want company in your newfound insomnia, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more creepy content. We do this so you don't have to, or so you can experience it from a safe digital distance. We're still figuring out our mission statement, to be honest. But more spooky stuff is definitely on the way, because the world, unfortunately for our peace of mind, is full of it. And hey, before you go off to triple check your locks or build a pillow fort, let us know in the comments which recording you found the most terrifying. Or if you have any theories on these cases, especially Dyatlov Pass or what Brandon Swanson really said, oh shit, to lay 'em on us. I'm always up for a good completely unhinged theory. Until next time, try to stay safe, try to stay sane, and as always, stay spooky. Or at least stay cautiously aware of your surroundings. Yeah, that sounds about right.